Hi, I'm Philip, and in this video I will have a look at the Revopoint Trackit SR. So this will be the unboxing and first closer look at the scanner itself. And in following videos and posts I will have my usual accuracy testing, scan bench, general usage workflow of the Trackit SR, and of course also just sharing my projects and scans I do with the Trackit SR. Before going into the package, I want to talk about a few points. So these are my notes and some notes Revopoint provided, but with my own annotations about the Trackit specs. So for clarity, the scanner was provided for testing by Revopoint, and I'm quite grateful for them providing it. So I can also compare it to my original Trackit I have. So I got the original Trackit on Kickstarter, and this is I wouldn't say it's the successor. So the main difference to the Trackit is that the SR, of course, it's wireless, so it supports scanning over Wi-Fi. So you can get rid of all the cables, so that's quite nice. But you also have quite smaller tracking volume for SR. So for comparison, the original Trackit has 11 cubic meters of tracking volume. So tracking volume is the volume where you can move the handpiece and the base station still sees it. And the SR has only 3 cubic meters. So the original Trackit, I use it a lot in car body scanning, where I use the 4 meters of maximum tracking distance quite thoroughly. Whereas in the SR, it's more I would say, medium format scans, mold scans, high accuracy mold scans. So maybe I would say up to 2 to 3 meters maybe. But now a bit more about some general points. So accuracy is a bit lower than on the original Trackit. So we have 0.005 plus 0.04 millimeters per meter of scan volume. Then this is the standard edition of the Trackit SR. So there is also the CMM edition, where you basically what you're having, I can just get it. So on the CMM edition, you get this ball plate. So I have it for other testing, for my original cursor testing. But you get this ball plate with the scanner. And what you then can do in Revotrack software, you can scan this ball plate, and it automatically detects the accuracy error so of your scanned data in comparison to the original measured sphere distance. So you can basically get a pass and no pass for the accuracy. And this indicates for you, for example, that you need to recalibrate. What's also with the CMM edition, I think you get 1 year of Revomeasure. So Revomeasure is metrology software. I got actually I think 3 years with the Trackit from my Kickstarter pre-order. So, but honestly, I don't do a lot of traditional metrology. I more use it for reverse engineering. So it is not my league to talk about, sadly. But from what I've tested with the Revomeasure, it's quite capable software. But now let's took the ball plate aside and talk about a few more points. So what the Trackit also now has, the Trackit SR, there is an additional temperature sensor on the tracker. We will see it later. So this also supposedly works with the how should I write it? It has active preheating. So they claim that with 2 minutes of preheating, it's good to go. So my original Trackit, it preheats a bit longer, and therefore it also does active temperature monitoring all the time. What you also can do is on the original Trackit, you can do multi-position scans. So for example, for how multi-position works, let's say I want to scan this marker, but the marker is 4 meters large, and then I can start with the tracker in this position, scan from this side. Then I move the tracker to the next position, scan for the next position, and then so on until I captured the whole part. And what's the interesting thing now, on the marker, there you glue 10 millimeter marker points, so bigger marker points, so you can attach them magnetically. And this allows the tracker to also follow the scan object. and therefore you don't need to stitch it afterwards. So this is quite a nifty tool. With the original Trackit, actually, I didn't use it quite so often because the cables were a bit hindering in like moving the tracker around the place all the time. So I'm quite hopeful that, not needing to use the cables will greatly improve this, this function. Then we have a bit of a difference in the scanning modes. So we have a 30-line laser scan, like in original Trackit. Then we have 17 parallel lines and a single line. So the 17 parallel lines actually is stated as like the large and fast scanning mode, whereas the cross lines are for detail scan. So that's quite interesting. The calibration workflow also changed a bit. So now we only get one dual axis gimbal. So there I'm a bit interested how it will work. And of course you can scan completely wireless. So I would say one important thing I missed or haven't talked about, what you can do with the Trackit SR, you can scan in bright sunlight, so up to 100,000 lux. So this is 100,000 lux is roughly broad daylight. So even in the tracking mode. So not only for the scanner itself, but for the whole tracking system. So this will be quite interesting to try out. So now I just missed my notes. There are my notes, I'm sorry. So now I would say let's begin the proper unboxing. And this is like the outer package. And here in the outer package there are like, or at least in my case, because it was shipped by air freight, it's some sort of like documentation for the batteries included. But these aren't very much interesting. So talking about batteries, the handpiece uses a 21700 battery cell, or round cell, and the tracker itself, it just has a 12-volt barrel plug and Revopoint cells, like a wireless kit for the tracker. This is also included in the CMM edition. I don't have the CMM edition. I don't want to buy the additional wireless bundle, so I will just use the same power bank I also used for the for my original Trackit. So now let's pull the case out from the outer case. I had a bit of a problem creating a space large enough to fit the Trackit, so I hope it is okay to look at this view. So this is normally not my workshop table. Now let's get rid of all the packaging foam, like this, and move the box in the center of the table. And what I immediately can tell is that the box is quite nice. So for the original Trackit, basically it was like this. When ordering on Kickstarter or ordering generally, the default case was a plastic hard case, and you could also buy a sort of advanced or upgrade case for it. So aluminum flight cases, and the Trackit SR comes with the flight case by default. And I'm quite pleased to say that it is a nice case. And unlike on the like Metro X or Metro Y series, the big panels are also metal. So these are not like wood or something. So otherwise, I don't know if there's much more interesting about the case itself. So we have a label here. I hope I can just peel it off, or I will peel it off later. Then we have up arrows for you to know how to open it. We have a handle on the side and a handle on the top. And the good thing is here on the bottom, we have rollers, and the case is actually, I hope you can move it like this. It's rolling quite easily. So when placing it on the ground, so I'm placing it right next to me, you can comfortably stand it up and just stroll it right next to you without much force needed. So it's not like the bumpy hard rollers on normal peel cases. But now let's open the case. For it to open, you have 3 buttons on the front, so you press in the middle and the latch is open. I won't open the third one until it is placed down. And then we can have a look inside the case. And I hope we can fit everything on the screen, barely, but it must suffice. We'll move it a bit to the left so we can place the contents to the right side. So for starters, it's much different than from the original Trackit. So it's much more compact, this whole setup. So I quite like it. So the Trackit used 2 cases. So one longer case for the tracker and the tripod for the tracker, and a shorter case for the handpiece and for the calibration board. This one, as you can see, only uses one and makes it much more comfortable, I would say. So my normal setup is I have my workstation, or bring my workstation in another Peli case. So roughly the same size as this one, and so I only have 2 hands, so I only can pull 2 cases if I don't want to go multiple times. So this being only 1 case is quite nice. And looking at a competition like the Freescale Nova, it also is 1 case. And I think also the how's it called, Scanology ones. But now let's look at the contents. So first thing what we have is a calibration certificate. So let's have a look at the results. You can see them. So basically, reference standard, it's a ball gauge with 500 millimeters, with uncertainty of 0.008 millimeters. And the measurements that were taken have error of roughly 0.02 to 0.04 millimeters. So this is quite nice. For these measurements, it's measured each time for each measurement 3 times in each direction. So this is quite fine. Now let's put it to the side. Then let's get the paper out of the way. I think what we're having here, that I can show you. So first we have like info sheet about software, additional software. We have a very small warranty card. And what you also have is the large markers. So these markers, I think they're actually a bit smaller than on my Trackit, so I have to look this up. So what these are? These are the markers that you place on the object you scan when using the multi-position scanning. So we first have a pack of adhesive markers, and then we have a small pack of magnetic markers. I actually produced some of them myself, so I just took like magnetic sheet, or it's like DIN A4 sized magnetic paper, and I placed markers on it and sent them out. So, but nice to see that some of them are included. What's also working quite fine when using such markers is basically printing big marker geometries that fit these markers, so you can stick them on a car body, ideally high up, so it can be viewed from multiple angles, and this will make tracking even easier. Now let's get the paper out of the way a bit and move on. I would say we will start with all the smaller cable accessories. So the big cable box is here on the top, and we're actually having a few more cables than on the original Trackit, I think. So what we're having here on the topmost, this is a mount for the dual axis gimbal that will be used in calibration. Let's put it to the side. Then we have multiple cables here. So this actually is quite a cable bundle. So as you can see, these are 3 cables in 1 sleeve. These 3 cables are basically for the power cord of powering the tracker, then for connecting the tracker to the PC, and for connecting the turntable to the tracker. These 3 are all in 1 sleeve, and they're actually active USB-C cables. As you can see here, we have these boxes. These are signal boosters to maintain the high speed over the long cable distance. I think these should be 6 meters. What I did on my original Trackit, I removed the yellow cable for the gimbal from the sheath, because this is only needed while calibrating, and otherwise it just hangs around, and I didn't want to have this like additional slack. But with the Trackit SR, I actually expect it to be a bit different, because the main feature is it's wireless. And I most likely will only use it wireless, because otherwise I still have the original Trackit with like the larger tracking volume. But what you need to do while calibrating, it only works wired. So the calibration works wired. This is like on any scanner I know, or I mean of the wireless scanners I know, all of them need to be wired by calibrating. But let's move these cables to the side. Okay, this is quite a cable package. And now let's have a look at the next cable. This one is, it's the PC to scanner. Or this is like the cable you want to use when using the Trackit or the scanner, the handpiece without the tracker. Because what you can do is, or originally with the original Trackit. From the beginning, you could also do marker scanning with the handpiece, so not using the tracking system at all, but you still had to connect the handpiece through the tracker to the PC. This is quite a lot of setup time. Then they came out with an adapter cable at some point that allows you to directly connect the scanner to the PC, and what you're having on this cable then is input for 12 volts power. I still have to look if it is needed on the SR. It would be very nice if it's not needed, because it has an integrated battery, the handpiece. But I guess it will also work wireless in standalone mode, so this will make it much more interesting to use. So next cables things we have here at the top is the power supply for the tracker. So we have like a normal cold cable, and then we have the power brick itself. So this is quite a big unit. Having a look at the power, it's 120 watts of power. It's bigger than on the original Trackit. So the original Trackit had 65 watts. So still remember this one. So this is much bigger. I will have a look at tracker and handpiece, how much power they will draw, or the gimbal, because in my theory it should take less power because we only have one gimbal. And from my testing, the gimbals are the main power draw. This is most likely also the reason why it needs to be used wired or with an external power supply by calibrating, because these gimbals, I think one of them draws 20 watts or so, and the original Trackit has 2. So interesting that they upgraded it. Maybe they also only did it for choosing a better brand, so this feels a bit more sturdy, more hefty than the original one. So let's move the cables out of the way. We have one cable set to go. So here, and what these are, or this one is, this is a lithium-ion charger for the 2 included 21700 cells. 21700 cells just mean 21 millimeters in diameter and 70 millimeters in length, and these are used to power the handpiece. And there's like included charger, and this one also has its own power brick, and I think it uses a regular 5x5 0.2155 by 21. I think it's so 5.5 millimeter outside diameter, 2.1 millimeter inside diameter. So this can be used with the same power supply or USB adapter as the tracker. Now let's move it out of the way. And as you can see, the table gets more crowded. But now we get to the interesting parts, I would say. First thing is the tripod for the dual axis gimbal for the calibration. So this uses, let's see how much power it will consume. 5 volts at 3 amps, so 15 watts. This feels actually a bit upgraded of the original one. So there's a bit less play in the whole system. So what was a bit unclear, or what some people sadly did with the tracker, was that they kept the dual axis gimbal that was used for the tracker, or for the calibration of the tracker, attached while scanning. And while calibrating, it's completely fine to use, because you use the markers of all like the rod and of the plate for reference. But while tracking, the last thing you want is the tracker to wobble around like this. And since this gimbal just have a bit of play, and then you tug at the cables a bit, because the original Trackit is wired, you would induce wobble, and wobble is like your enemy. It will introduce like surface roughness and surface artifacts in the scans. So this one doesn't need the second gimbal anyways, but it also seems to be a bit improved. Now I need a sip of water, I'm sorry. Moving on, I think we will have a look at the gimbal. Sorry, tripod. Sorry, it's quite warm today, so I'm sorry. This overall seems to be quite similar to the original tracker or Trackit. So it's quite a sturdy gimbal. When unfolding it, you can see the tubing is quite large. I think it's like 32mm tubing to prevent it from wobbling. And what's quite interesting here, that the gimbal itself has markers on it. I don't know for what it will be used. For me, it's a bit unclear why to use it. Maybe it could be used for the calibration step, where you attach the calibration blade and the calibration rod to the gimbal. Sorry, to the tripod, but I'm a bit unsure for what it's used. But let's place it to the side now and continue. Then we have the quick adapter plate for connecting the scanner, the tracker or the tripod. No, it's this one. For connecting the tracker or the holder for the dual axis gimbal to the tripod. So this is a regular V-mount. What's quite nice, you can directly substitute this mount with any like proper ball head for tripods. So on my original tracker, I have like a big ball head to like more freely position the tracker, and I will transfer it to this one quite certainly. Now, the last two things before coming to the interesting parts, we have the calibration rod. So this is full carbon basically. So carbon rod with like carbon parts glued to the side, adhered with markers. This one is used for calibrating the tracker. And what's a bit different compared to original Trackit. On original Trackit, what you would do for the like semi-automatic calibration, you would place this one on an automatic dual axis gimbal turntable, and you would place the tracker on the second one, and they would like play in a little dance together. With the SR, you only get one dual axis gimbal, and you only place dual axis gimbal on the calibration rod. The tracker doesn't get one. You are basically the dual axis gimbal, from my understanding, or from what I've seen in the manual. So the software prompts you how to behave or how to position the tracker. I think this is the right choice to do, because even in the original Trackit, with the like semi-automatic system, you still had to remain by the tracker, because you need to perform the calibration at multiple different distances, and this would requires you to like interact with it every like 2 minutes, I think, while calibrating. So I had a lot of like idle time, standing anxious nearby or uneasy nearby. So this will make it a bit more active and hopefully also a bit quicker therefore. And of course, due to the smaller tracking volume of the SR, it won't need as many calibration steps, I guess, but I haven't tried out. Now let's place this again here in the case, because you don't want to damage it or touch it in any, or touch the markers in any way. Same applies to the calibration board. So you can see it. This one is also made from carbon, so have a look so that I don't touch the markers. And as you can see, it's quite a nice board. So interestingly, on the Revopoint scanners, the markers or the calibration boards don't use actual markers. So I noticed this short time ago, and I've seen a video about it a longer time ago, basically complaining about this one, that they don't use proper markers for calibration. But from my accuracy testing that I've done with the scanners, the Revopoint scanners tend to be very, very precise and very accurate. So I don't see, so they don't do it differently than all the other brands, but I don't see an issue with it because it works. So, and having a look at the other side, of course, you have the QR code where it loads the calibration information. Same applies to the bar. And what's interesting here, we have like these small shims also with markers placed on them. So I think it's for the hand-eye calibration that the tracker basically sees the plate like this, and then you hold the handpiece next to it. And the handpiece sees the plate, and the tracker sees both of them. The original, or for the original Trackit, it doesn't have these two additional ones. So that's also a bit, one of the interesting parts. Or I tend to notice these like tiny differences quite prominently. But now let's store it again, so you don't damage it or don't scratch the surface. So this is quite important. I think you will, if you damage yours, you can get one new, but since it's full carbon, I guess it tends to be a bit more on the expensive side. So now let's take these last two things out, and then we will zoom a bit more in and have a closer look. So we have the tracker. Let's place it to the side. And then we have the handpiece. I will also place this one to the side and get rid of the case, so we can have a bit closer look. I moved everything around, and now let's start with the tracker. We'll have a closer look at the tracker. So what I instantly notice, it is comparatively heavy to the original Trackit. So I didn't notice it when I first had a look in the packaging yesterday. So of course I checked that there's no transport damage, but it's quite sturdy. I think one of the main parts is in the bottom here. So there it has like a very sturdy base plate. And I think there's also like, I guess there are some components attached to the base plate for cooling. What you're seeing otherwise, we have one camera and the second tracking camera here on the side. And as stated, these are rated for up to, or the whole system is rated for up to 100,000 lux scanning. So you can scan in broad daylight. What you also have is like an infrared LED ring around both the cameras. Then we have the two indicator LEDs here in the front, so you can see them a bit here. These show you either in green that currently you are actively tracked, or the tracking is working, or in red when you lost tracking. So for example, you moved out of the tracking window. Then we have here a short inlet for ventilation air. Going to the back side, we have first, that's interesting, we first have a 12 volt input, the connector for the 12 volt scanner connection cable. So this is the cable between the tracker and the handpiece. Then to the PC, two connections for the gimbal. So I guess they use the same mold as for the original Trackit, because this one doesn't need the two gimbal connections. Then we have a 12 volt input, and we have indicator LEDs. It seems like here on the side there is a 3D printed cover inserted that there would have been a power switch, but I guess they decided to not use the power switch at all. All of these connections here, they are locking. So you can see here on the top we have like threaded inserts that allow the plugs to be screwed down. And we have a second mesh inlet here in the bottom for cooling. Also on the two sides we have some meshes for a bit more of air circulation about the cameras. I will be quite interested in the thermal performance of the Trackit SR. So with the original Trackit, it is quite, especially in the tracking mode, quite sensitive to temperature variations. So I must be honest, this is expected and I stressed it quite a lot. So for example, I used it in like a 5 degrees centigrade workshop, and then the next day in a 25 degrees centigrade interior space for scanning. And I calibrated it in the workshop fully, and then moved it to the interior space without recalibrating. And it actually showed that the tracking performance wasn't very good. So keep this in mind. It's also stated in the manual that ideally it should be used from 20 to 25 degrees and within 2 degrees centigrade of the calibration temperature. But realistically, you will use it outside. But we will see how involved the calibration process on the Trackit SR is. But yeah, let's see. So what's interesting, what you're seeing here, what I noticed, this base station is already a bit different from the original Trackit. So my Trackit, or the Trackit that was sold on Kickstarter, or the first sellers buyers got, was actually, or is actually roughly 10 centimeters longer than the Trackit you can buy nowadays on the web shop. I think it was changed. I first noticed at Formnext in November last year that the Trackit changed. And when talking to personnel at the booth, they told me that it was changed due to the smaller size being more temperature insensitive and a bit more form stable across the big size. And now the last thing we can see here on the bottom is the external temperature sensor. So I first was not very sure what I would see here, but then I found it in the manual, I mentioned in the manual, that this is for temperature sensing. So it seems that they made the whole system a lot more focused about thermal management than on the first Trackit series. Now let's move this one aside and we will have a closer look at the handpiece. First impression, I very much like it, even compared to my Trackit, original Trackit. So it is both smaller, more comfortable to hold, and a bit more elegant, I would say. So here you can see that the marker spheres, they are made from plastic and they are glued to the carbon hull, I would say. So this makes the whole design a bit more shapeable, if I can say it like this. So on the original Trackit, the whole outer ring is made from carbon, even the marker domes, and this limits how you can design it a bit. But with this design, you're more free. I guess on the original Trackit, they did it to keep it even more temperature stable. So but I like it. I guess this is also a bit cheaper to manufacture than the intricate dome on the Trackit. What they also did, I just noticed when placing it down, that they added some rubber stops here, rubber protectors here and here. So when placing it down, it's a bit more gentle. But what I will very certainly do, so for the original Trackit, I designed a mount that lets me hang the handpiece to the tripod. So I will also design one for this, so because I quite like the functionality. Otherwise, you can see we have like the outer hull, the outer ring, or outer sphere, I would call it, and then the tracker itself, or scanner itself, is screwed into the sphere. Having a look from the front, what you can see is we have the two cameras, or the two depth cameras with the illuminator rings on the outside. We have an RGB camera that can be used first for scanning the QR codes on the plate and on the bar, but also for coloring information capture. So how it works on the Trackit is you first do a regular scan, and then after scanning, whilst like not moving the tracker and the scan piece, you start the image or texture capturing. And what you do, you just move the handpiece around your part and take pictures of it, and it automatically like maps the pictures on the scan piece. So this also works surprisingly well. So I was a bit skeptical on Trackit, but it works actually quite well. And here on the two sides we have ventilation slits. It seems a bit bulky looking from the front, but I like the design quite honestly. So then here we have the laser emitters. So we have two emitters for the 30 cross lines, so 50 and 50 lines offset by 90 degrees. We have the 17 parallel lines and one single line for deep hole scanning. What's quite good, so I hope you can see it here on the top a bit. So if I rotate it a bit, sorry, it's very hard in the shadow. So you have like buttons for controlling. And with an update a while ago, they finally implemented that you can actually remap these buttons while scanning. So you have the M button. So this is a bit like the mode selector button. And what you can do, you press this one to, for example, switch to the exposure adjustment. Then you can use plus and minus buttons to adjust exposure. You press M again, then you can switch to the laser line switch and use plus and minus to switch the laser lines. This works quite reliably, and when pressing the M buttons, you get like a big pop-up in the software that you can even see from afar what you are changing. I personally, what I do when scanning, I have my smartphone either strapped to my hand or have a tablet nearby with remote desktop view to my PC. What I also did for the original Trackit is create a smartphone mount here for the handpiece. I'm a bit uncertain how I would fit a smartphone in here because it's much more compact, but I'm just getting an idea how I would fit one, because as you can see, hopefully, we have some mounting points here, or some screw holes that even have threaded inserts. So maybe this is for like a robot adaptation, I don't know. But this could be used quite nicely to attach a smartphone mount. So good to know. Then going more to the bottom, we have the USB-C plug used for wired scanning. I still have to search if this can also be used for charging the internal battery. And then we have a power on and off button, or switch. Now the interesting part, so it's very new on this one, we have battery compartment. So just open it like this, and the lid pops off. And what you now can do is you can insert the battery. So inside in the molded piece, you can see plus and minus. I hope you can see it a bit. So basically the plus is on the top side. Then this plastic strip goes below the battery, so you can easily pull it out later. You just insert the battery like this, and then you can close the lid. And I can now switch it on. But this will be for later, so this is mainly unboxing. I still have to get used to the scanner a bit more before talking about the actual scanning workflow and scanning performance. But yeah, I'm very interested to scan the wireless, or try the wireless functionality. Now, a few last remarks. So let's place this one here in the picture again. Oh, one thing before I forget it. For powering the tracker, basically what you can do, since the power input is just a DC check, I can simply use a battery. So this one is a Ukraine battery that can do USB PD, so USB power delivery. And this allows me to use such an adapter cable that on the one side has a USB-C port with a 12 volt PD trigger. So basically there's a small chip inside this port that tells the power bank to deliver 12 volts. And on the other side we have a barrel check. So I can just plug it in. And why I like this battery or power bank quite a lot is it actually shows me on the display the voltage I'm getting an output. So here it shows me I'm getting 12 volts, just for a sanity check. And then I can plug in the tracker. So I think it's booting up. Let's see. Yeah, it's booting up. So we got a short burst. And currently we are pulling, let's see how much we're pulling, 3 watts. The interesting thing is the tracker is rated for 120 watts. So I don't know why it is rated so high. I still have to look in this one a bit more thorough. But I think the official power bank that they sell for the tracker has the same power output as this power bank. So they stated on the website. So the system they use in the official wireless kit is basically similar, but with a power bank and a cable length adapted to the tracker. So I would say these are all the relevant parts, or the relevant parts to show you. So for the last thing, what next? So I will get used to the tracker, and then I will perform a diesel test. So this means accuracy testing with the ball bar, then scan benchy, coin scan, my trusty anatomical skull to get a bit more of a comparison of organic parts, and of course car scans, so car body panels. So this is the most interesting one for me, and I guess also for you, or bigger art pieces that I can't glue markers on. And of course my whole, I would say, workflow experience and sharing my projects with you. So have a nice day and stay tuned and be back for more like 3D scanning content about the Trackit SR and much more 3D scanners. So have a nice day.